Okay, so apple pencil. I got an apple. I got a pen. Pineapple pen. How the heck you make skin in this piece look so realistic? I'd be struggling. I have no idea because I feel like I f***ed this up a lot. I feel like this doesn't look like the reference at all. I feel like I pushed a lot of things. It's a lot of shape language. I was working on this little by little. You can see like all the tiny strokes here. If I get close enough, you can see like all the different mixtures of color. It's just a matter of getting the right shape to copy kind of like what's going on in the reference. It's just a matter of getting the right shape language, Napa. It sounds really dumb, but that's what it is. Like I'm just going with some of like the random shapes that are here. So for example, here. And so like here. You just learn the shapes. Shape language. So when you think about things, you think about like the shape of the eye. So for example, you know that a pupil and an iris are circular, right? And so the shape of those things are round. So when you think of an eyeball, that's a sphere. The pupil and the iris are both round. So you put circles in front of it, right? So if I do this, right? This is an eyeball, right? So I can just take this. I'm gonna take a different color or something here, for example, and I'm gonna do this. So that's an eyeball, and that the eye has like an almond shape like this, right? And so that's a sphere inside. So when you think about shapes, you have to think about everything that comes. So you can already see that it's an eyeball. So you think about, okay, well, you don't know that this is an eyeball yet, right? Because like right now it's just like whatever, right? So I'm gonna grab this and I'm like, okay, well there's this ball and then like this weird almond shape right here. So I can do this. And you're already like, oh, that kind of looks like an eyeball, right? But it's only because I'm creating that circular shape language to tell you that this is an eyeball. So I'm doing this right here, right? And then I'm gonna take this right here. And this is gonna be your eyelid. I'm just gonna color it. 5 shapes and you told the audience it's an eyeball. Yeah. So then I can be like, okay, well, let me make it look more like an eyeball, right? I'm gonna grab this here. I'm gonna do this. The bottom of the eye. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of this pink. I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna put it right here in the corner of the eye. Put some over here. Then obviously I'm making it more realistic because like I'm thinking about like where your eyeball does these things, right? And then I'm like, okay, well now I gotta make it look like an actual like female eye. And so these basic shapes start creating an eyeball, or at least now I'm defining a whole part of the face. So now I've given her eyeliner. Kind of. I'm explaining shape language to Napa because he was asking what shape language was, and I was going over like the different things that can make shape language. So like different shapes. So like this arch right here is ultimately creating a eyelid, right? So when you think about a highlight, a lot of the times how you see it in anime, it's just like a dot, right? And so like now I'm creating contrast to like create different shape language. So like here, I'm adding a little bit of a highlight to show that it's a lid. Yeah, or really old cartoons and comics, correct. But all this started from a little ball, right? A little sphere. And I kept adding to it. So like here, we can go back real quick so you can see how we started. See, I should be able to go all the way back. So all I'm adding are key strokes that create shape language. And mind you, this is how we started. A circle. Right? We think ball, circle. And then I was like, you know what? Let me build the shape of the eye. That still doesn't look like an eyeball. So I'm like, okay, what can I add shape language wise to make the illusion of an eye when I'm drawing it? Well, we're gonna add the iris. And then I'm like, okay, we gotta add the pupil. It does look like an eye, but with the first sphere, like we started with a circle, which I was saying sphere like a 3D object. And then, okay, well now it looks like an eyeball. How much more can I push it? What other things can I do? Okay, well let's add the under part of the lid, the lower lid. Okay, well, let's add the little red on the inner corner. Okay, let's do it on the other side because we also have that too. Okay, what else can I add? Okay, well, let's give her some eyeliner because we like girly pops with eyeliner. There's some lower lashes that were drawn on, right? Okay, add more eyeliner. Okay, well, let's create the lid. That creates depth and completes the illusion behind the flat eye shape. Exactly. And so, okay, well, here's my top lid. Oh, let's make it more interesting. Okay, let's add reflection. There's the light. There's the light source coming from the left, okay? The top of your eyelid normally catches eye because three-dimensional. That's why I drew this section right here. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That the way the circle was shaded and kind of suggests the illusion. Suggests a tear duct when you put the correct. As more detail is added, it creates depth and completes the illusion behind just a flat eye. Yep, for me, the details for creating that depth is where I struggle the most. You gotta practice. And I hate it when people tell me, oh, you just gotta practice. I fucking hate that statement so much. But it's literally what it is. So for example, I am not good at non-organic things. And when I mean non-organic, I'm thinking buildings. I'm saying cars. I'm saying like machinery, guns, things like that. Practice really only helps when you know what you're doing. Not necessarily. So you have to practice with intent, right? Though I really need to hit the art studies, been drawing whatever for this art event, but I can feel myself. Yeah. So you have to draw with intent. So for example, I'm gonna show you some things that I've done here. Obviously we're gonna move away from this real quick. So for example, this is a reference study, right? I talked about wanting to get better at reflection and things like that. And one of the prompts for practicing different materials and sources was where's it at? Where's the reference? I said, I'm gonna paint this amethyst. And I started thinking to myself, okay, how do I break this down? And this again comes back to the shape language. So I'm gonna show you how I started breaking this down in my head because this was actually quite difficult for myself. If we look at the video, let's look at the time-lapse video. I started thinking about how this was looking like in the picture. I started breaking down where the shadows were at, what those shapes look like, and how I could imitate the texture of the amethyst that's cut, because it's uncut and cut in a lot of areas on that piece. And I said, okay, well, how do I do that? And so this is a breakdown of that piece right here. So then I just did the background, but you see me slowly build the parts together. You see me start adding texture with very specific brushes because I'm like, okay, how do I replicate that? How do I do that? And I started stacking and building things together. Yeah, you can practice wrong. You have to do it with intention. And so here you see me like trying to figure out how to create those smoky textures in the actual piece. And so here I'm thinking in shape language because I'm like, okay, well, what's the shape of that and how do I recreate it? How do I create the illusion that this is the real amethyst versus like the picture that I found the reference from, right? And so mind you, I already have this foundation and this knowledge about what I need to do. It's applying it. So you read up on it, and I actually have a couple, let me see if I can find, I don't think I have anything specific for a shape language per se. I have more books on light and color and shadow because those are things that I struggle with. But here you can see the breakdown of me like pushing it and slowly trying to work more on that. And it was just like, okay, well, how can I imitate that? How is it shaped on the original picture? And I just started transcribing that in my drawing. It wasn't like a copy pasta or like a printer copy. I had to really think about what I was doing and how I was drawing it. So it was even more intentional. I looked at the reference, looked at the shape of the shadow, of the highlight, of that texture. And I looked over at my piece and I said, how do I replicate that? How do I make that look like that at all? And that's how I did that. And this was a study. This was ultimately a study of the image that you see on the right-hand side, because you can see me building it on the left from the video here. Because at the beginning of this exercise, I created a silhouette of the actual amethyst. I took all the shapes of like the whole thing together and I said, okay, how do I make that happen? And here's me playing with like different toggles and things like that to make it look like the original. But if we go to the beginning of the video, you see me create the basic shape of the actual amethyst. And I don't know why I drew a happy face there on the side. I have no idea what that was about. You ultimately see me build the basic shape out of it with the lasso tool and just building on top of it.